Hello, my friends, it's Danny, and today we are chatting sugar cravings and how to stop them naturally or how to curb them naturally. So this is a question I get often. A lot of people feel like they have a lot of sugar cravings and they don't understand how come, or they don't know what to do with them, or they try to white knuckle their way through them. And so I felt like it would be a really good video to kind of dive into some of the most common reasons that we can have sugar cravings so you can better understand them. This way you have a little bit of a strategy when it comes to learning how to curb those cravings or to just stop them altogether. So the very first culprit that comes to mind when it comes to sugar cravings is artificial sweeteners. It makes a lot of logical sense that if you have a lot of sugar in your diet and you want to change that, that you would take the switch over to artificial sweeteners, because there's this kind of false belief that they don't count because they don't have calories and it's not real sugar. But artificial sweeteners have actually been proven to make us crave more sugar and more sweets than we would if we were just ingesting regular sugar. And the reason for that is because artificial sweeteners are up to 300 times sweeter than regular sugar. Therefore, it creates more desire for sweeteners, period. So think about it like this. The very first phase of digestion is in your mouth, right? So digestion begins in our mouth. And when you ingest something sweet, the brain releases dopamine. It's a feel-good hormone. So if you have something that's naturally sweet, say an apple, the brain releases a natural amount of dopamine. A little bit of an apple, a little bit of dopamine. If you eat something that's highly processed and artificially sweetened, the intensity of that sweetness creates a lot of dopamine in the brain, right? So a lot of sweet sensation in the mouth, a lot of dopamine released in the brain. And when there's a lot of dopamine released in the brain thinks something really important has just happened, and it thinks, ooh, we should really do that again. So it creates this very strong desire for more sweetness, for more sugar, whether that be real or artificial. So what we want to try to do with sweeteners is, step one, if you have a lot of artificial sweeteners in your diet, switch over to higher quality real sugar options. So things like honey, maple syrup, stevia, these would all be great alternatives to artificial sweeteners. Once you're on that real food playing field, then you can start pulling back the need for excess sweeteners altogether. And the way I would recommend doing that is just by baby stepping your way back. So say you're somebody who likes 2 or 3 tablespoons of honey in their tea. I would start by cutting that back by a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons and drinking your tea that way for a week or 2 weeks until your taste buds adjust and you're actually enjoying your tea the way it is. Then once you're there, you pull back a little bit more and you let your taste buds adjust. Really what we're looking to do is kind of reset and cleanse the palate so there's not such a strong desire for so much excess sugar, whether it be real sugar or artificial sweeteners. One of the points I think it's really important to keep in your back pocket is when you're having a lot of excessive artificial sweeteners, they literally obliterate the taste buds on your tongue, right? So that you can no longer appreciate the natural, subtle flavors and sweetnesses in real whole food. So that's another really important reason to start to switch over to real whole foods and then begin to pull back so that you get to a place where you can actually appreciate the beautiful sweet flavors in a whole range of foods and you don't need such an artificial hit. The second reason why we often have strong cravings for sweets and sugar is fatigue. The body is so smart, and it knows that the fastest way for it to get energy is to reach for something sugary or some type of refined carbohydrate, because the body does not have to do a lot to access the energy in these foods. It does not, they are already so highly processed that the body doesn't have to do a lot of work to receive the energy once it eats these foods, right? So if you are tired and the body needs rest, but you're trying to push yourself forward and you're not giving yourself a break, the body tries to have your back and says, okay, let's look for something sweet. Let's look for something refined, something that's easy so that we can give him or her a good boost of quick energy. The way to balance that out, of course, would be to honor what your body is really looking for at that time. So if you are in a position, especially nowadays where so many people are working from home who were not doing so before, or studying from home who weren't doing so before, if you reach that point in the day where you feel fatigued, where you feel tired, see if you can't give yourself yourself a 10 to 20 minute cat nap or just a little bit of rest. And if you're not in a position where you can actually try to rest for 10 to 15 minutes, see if you can do something restorative. So something that just gives you a little boost of natural energy. So if you're in an office building or at a school, can you just step outside for 5 minutes and get some fresh air? Or can you walk around the building for 5 to 10 minutes just to get that fresh air and to get a little extra energy in your body? If you're indoors or at a desk somewhere, can you just put on a 5 to 10 minute meditation? You could find one here on YouTube, right? Something that just helps the body to relax and that's very restorative. And sometimes it's really surprising how just a few minutes of surrendering to that fatigue can really then give you exactly what you need. It's just a little boost, right? Surrendering deeply into the fatigue ends up giving you the energy that you need. So playing around with different ways to give that to yourself during the day instead of reaching for an artificial hit of energy that is only going to last a very short window anyway, and then it's going to come crashing down, probably leaving you feeling twice as bad as you did in the first place. The third reason we can have some very strong cravings for sugar is that we are not including enough naturally sweet foods in the diet. So foods like sweet potatoes, whole grains, root vegetables, oatmeal, fruits, etc. Foods that naturally have a sweet flavor and an expansive energy to them. And this is especially true for people who are trying to diet very hard or maybe trying to push their way into an extremely low carbohydrate diet. And so when you're not getting those little bits of natural sweetness throughout the day in a very mild way, then the body can create a much more intense desire for sugar or something sweet. So it's something to take note of. If you can recognize that to be true about yourself and you have a lot of sugar cravings, you might want to play with weaving some more of these naturally sweet foods in your diet throughout the day and see if that doesn't have any effect on your cravings. Number 4 is protein. And this can be a tricky one because protein can create sugar cravings if you have too little protein. And protein can also create sugar cravings if you have too much protein. So if we're not having enough protein in our diet, then what happens is the body tends to process through what it's eating very quickly, which creates more spikes, ebbs and flows in the blood sugar, and we're not feeling satiated over a long period of time. And anytime the blood sugar is going up and then it's coming down, when it crashes down, we tend to crave more sugar, more carbohydrate. So if you know for sure that you struggle with getting protein in your diet and you have sugar cravings, that might be something to investigate. On the flip side, if you have a lot of protein in your diet, then the body is going to look for extra carbohydrates and sugar to help process that protein through the body. So if you resonate with that and you think, oh wow, I'm always trying to get a lot of protein and I managed to do that, but I still have a lot of sugar cravings, that might be something to play with. So again, so much of the work to do here is really taking the tips from the outside world, but then shutting all of that information out so you can tune into yourself, into how you feel and to what works for you and your body, because it does look differently for everybody. And I think that the most important practice we can have is really building that relationship with ourselves and our bodies so we can understand our own personal needs. Number 5 would be unmet emotional needs. Here is the thing. Again, the body is so smart. So if you're feeling very stressed, or if you're feeling very uptight, or you're feeling very sad or very lonely, right? All of these are more contracted states in the body. And if you think about it like a pendulum, right? The body likes homeostasis. It wants to be in balance. It wants to stay in the center. And if you're feeling very stressed or very uptight and you're way, way over on one side of the pendulum, the body knows that some of the most expansive foods it can reach for is sugar, refined carbohydrates, and or alcohol. These are some of the most expansive foods from an energetic standpoint that will help to relax and open up the body. So the body knows that if you're contracted and really tight and all the way over here, if it reaches for some of those types of foods, it can bring you back to the center without that much effort. So if you're in a place where you're not able to tend to your emotional needs, right? So if you're feeling stressed, what is it that you really need? What's creating the stress? How can you unwind a bit? How can you shift your approach to whatever it is so you don't feel as stressed, right? That's a whole conversation in and of itself. But basically, how are you caring for that emotional need? in a way that actually meets the need versus just kind of putting a little food band-aid on it. And the body will do this to protect you. The body is doing this to help you because it knows that any body that stays in a contracted state for a long period of time, this will create a state of dis-ease in the body, right? This is the beginning of where dis-ease happens in the body. So it wants to bring you into balance. It wants to bring you into the center. And I often say to people, if having a little bit of chocolate or having a little bit of ice cream is helping to relax and unwind you until you're ready to meet those needs in another way, it's really not the worst thing in the world because unbeknownst to just say a weight loss goal, it's actually helping to bring you back into balance, which is homeostasis, which is a much healthier place for the body to be. So those are 5 common reasons that we can have strong sugar cravings. This is by no means an all-inclusive list, and I'm super curious to know what some of your personal experiences have been. What have you noticed created sugar cravings for you, and or what has helped you to reduce those cravings? So curious to hear from you all. So please come on down to the comments below and share. And as many of you know, I'm working on a digital weight loss course right now. It's a mind-body approach to kind, sustainable weight loss. So if that is something you are struggling with and want to put some time and attention on in the new year, make sure you go down to the description box below and put your name on the wait list. That class will be launching in January. Okay, thank you all so much for watching. I am Danny Spees, and I'll see you back here next time with some more food for thought. Cheers!